Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Crypto IO. My name is Ivan, and on this episode, we're going to be talking about the different exchanges that we can use as US citizens in order to DCA into Bitcoin. Now, prior to this whole mess with the C5 platforms, I used to use Voyager because it had fairly low spreads, no fees, and so it was one of the best ways that personally I found to DCA into cryptocurrencies. Unfortunately, since then, I'm sure you guys know, Voyager has declared bankruptcy, so this is no longer an exchange that I can use. And with that, it got me started into looking at different options. And I was quite surprised by what I found. Now, I made this quick spreadsheet, which I'm going to share with you guys. I'm going to put the link. You can take a look at all the different exchanges. And I looked at all the exchanges that are legal within the US. So they had to have some license and they had to be regulated within the United States. Otherwise, I basically just ignore them. And with that being said, I'm only going to cover the top 5 options that I personally saw. And if you want to look at the other ones, because there's many more like Cash App, Bitstamp, Kraken, PayPal, and so on. Unfortunately, I didn't think those were as good, so I'm just going to cover the primary 5 options that I would personally choose. And we're going to talk about the different categories that I have for comparing these. So the first one was trading fees, and this is pretty much just what it sounds. How much do they charge you per trade? And some of these exchanges have very, very complicated fees, kind of like Coinbase, where it depends on multiple factors. Also depends if you use Coinbase Pro or not. And in this case, I'm looking at DCA, so just being able to set it and forget it type of thing. So Coinbase has some pretty high fees in that regard. Then I'm looking at withdrawal fees as well, because I don't want to keep my money in the exchange. I want to be able to withdraw it into my hardware wallet, and that way you avoid some of the issues that we saw with Voyager, Celsius, and possibly BlockFi seems to be okay, but we don't know if other exchanges might have issues in the future. So I would much rather be able to purchase them and be able to cheaply move my coins into my personal wallet that I have my custody with. We'll look at the spread fee. So this is essentially another way that a lot of exchanges used to make money. They add some kind of spread into the price, and they generate revenue that way. And this is the way I see it. This is a fee, because all of them are going to have some kind of spread. But as we'll talk about some of these later, some of these have some very, very high spread, and you need to be aware of which ones, which exchanges those are, because you might think that the fee that they charge is low, but they're making a lot of money on you with that spread. So this is a very important one that you need to be aware of. The next one we're going to look at, these were just deposits. So essentially, this costs you money to deposit into the exchange. Some of them only accept certain type of deposits. And do they have the instant funds for trading? Meaning, if I submit a deposit, can I use that deposit to buy Bitcoin right away? Most of these allow that, and you just have to wait a couple of days before you're able to withdraw the coins. So you got to wait for the deposit to settle, but you're able to purchase it right away. Whether or not they have DCA, and the ones that do, I gave them a slightly higher score, because I do believe the best way to invest into cryptocurrencies is just to dollar cost average over time, especially during the bear market when prices are reduced or lower than what you would say is intrinsic value. And we talked about Bitcoin price models on a previous episode, so make sure you check it out. But I really wanted an exchange where I could just easily set it and forget it type of thing. So regardless of what the price is doing, regardless of what the sentiment is, I just wanted to be able to dollar cost average, over time. So the exchanges that allow me to do that, I gave them a slightly higher score than others. And then I put in here just coins available to trade. This one is not as impactful, especially if you only care about Bitcoin or Ethereum or both of them. But I added the number of coins available. Staking, I wanted to tell the difference between an exchange that's just staking versus one that's lending, because lending is a lot more riskier, as we saw with Voyager and Celsius, where they're able to lend your coins to another company, and there's a potential that they default on that loan, and then you as the owner, you're potentially at a loss. Where staking comes directly from the blockchain itself. So there is some risk because the smart contract could be jeopardized. They could hack into it, or the platform that's staking it on your behalf, they could lose it one way or another. But it's a lot less riskier because they're not being lent out. It's built into the protocol itself, and normally the company or the blockchain that builds the staking smart contract is the native developers themselves. Kind of like when you do the ETH 2.0 staking, it came from the ETH Foundation, the ETH development team. Same thing with Cardano, Algorand, Solana. So it's safer. There's still some risk, but it's safer when you just look at purely staking versus lending. And then the last points over here is some of these exchanges are not available for everybody in the US, especially the states of New York and Hawaii. They seem to be highly restricted. So there's only very few exchanges where you can actually legally participate if you're a resident in one of these two states. And there's a few other ones, so I noted them in here, but Hawaii and New York seem to be the most restricted states. And then on the notes section, it's just my personal notes, so just my personal opinion. You don't necessarily have to agree. This is just how I felt about the exchange, and at the end I gave it just a quick score from 1 to 5 based on my personal opinion. I also have a referral link, so if you want to support the channel, you can use a referral link. It'll help out, but don't feel obligated to do it. I want to talk about the spread fee because some people do not understand it. And for that, I'm going to go into the Coinbase application over here. And let me... Okay, I don't think my camera gets in the way. So I'm just going to show you, if you did a $100 purchase of Bitcoin, and I'm just going to select my bank account. I'll do a preview buy. The way you calculate the spread here is based on the quote. So you can see whenever they give you a quoted price, it's of 22,194. So you can see that the quoted price is different from the actual price. And this is what I mean from the spread fee. And when you calculate the spread, different exchanges are vastly different. Some have very small spreads. Some have some pretty gigantic ones. So you got to be aware of these spread fees. And then on top of that, Coinbase adds the fee itself. So you're paying the fee directly, and then you're paying that spread. So it's an indirect fee that you're also paying for this transaction. So just be aware of that one. And I just wanted to show you how to calculate that. All right, so you just look at the quoted price versus the actual price to see what the spread is. Another way, some of the exchanges don't show you the quoted price. So in that case, look at the amount of Bitcoin or Ethereum, whatever coin they're giving you, and then multiply that by the actual price over here, and then you can see how much are you getting compared to what you're actually going to pay for that. Okay. And now, Coinbase did not actually make it into my top 5, but they do have a feature called the free for deposit or direct deposit, which is supposed to make your transactions free. So the only thing you would end up paying, according to what they're claiming, would be the spread fee of 0.5%, which I think that's pretty good if it works the way it's stated. Now, I set it up a couple of days ago, and it takes a couple of weeks before your next paycheck hits in, and then you see the transaction happen. So I'm still not 100% sure if this works the way they claim it to be, but if it does work, then that's phenomenal, right? That means you would only pay 0.5% on any transactions within Coinbase. And what I do like about Coinbase is that it has really good security. It's been around for a very long time. It's trustworthy. And as long as you set up your two-factor authentication, I think Coinbase is very reliable, very secure. So as long as the direct deposit works correctly, then I think Coinbase would be one of the top choices. If you're not using the direct deposit feature though, I think Coinbase has one of the highest fees compared to everybody else. So if you're not using direct deposit do not use Coinbase. There are much better choices, as we'll see. Now, for the fifth option, we have Juno. And Juno is something I've heard fairly recently. So it's, I'm not sure how old it is, but it hasn't been around for too long. And I believe they rebranded recently from a different name. The fascinating thing is that they have 0 fees until July 2022. And I could not find any documentation as to how much the fees are going to be after that. So it may change, and just be aware of that one. Look into it in case it does change in the future. But for the time being, 0 fees, 0 trading fees is phenomenal. Another awesome feature is that withdrawals for Ethereum, if you use layer 2 like Arbitrum or Optimism, it's free. So you wouldn't be paying those ETH fees, which they can get pretty high during the peaks of a cycle. So having those free transaction withdrawals is phenomenal. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to test the Bitcoin one, because when we look at the deposit, and this is one of the biggest things that I did not like about Juno, is that they don't have the instant deposits. You have to submit a bank transfer, and then it takes about 5 to 7 days for that transaction to settle. I set up my account last week, and I'm still waiting for my first deposit to settle before I can even purchase Bitcoin or ETH with it. So unfortunately, I haven't been able to fully test this new exchange, which is exchange and a bank account. So I guess that's the difference too, is that you actually get a bank account with Juno. So it's not just an exchange, but you get a full banking application to go with it. The spreads were very reasonable. I was actually really surprised, especially for Ethereum. They had, I tested a couple of times, but they had a 0% spread on ETH, and then a 0 fee as well. So you were getting 100% of whatever you purchase with Ethereum. So that was really good. And Bitcoin had a very small spread, so it was good for both. And then you also get the free withdrawals for ETH on a layer 2. And then unfortunately, I haven't been able to test the Bitcoin withdrawals. So this is pretty good overall, but the biggest flaw that I see with Juno is that deposit taking forever to be able to hit your account. Similar to Coinbase, they do have a direct deposit, but I did not set it up for Juno, so I'm not sure how well it works. And I did forget about Coinbase. One of the things that I did not like about the direct deposit is that I was only able to choose one coin. So I'm still waiting to see how this whole direct deposit fee waive thing works with Coinbase, where Juno, they claim that you can essentially set the percentage allocation that you want. So let's say you want 50% BTC and 50% ETH. According to the documentation that Juno has, you should be able to set your direct deposit, and then you set the 50% and 50%, and it'll automatically purchase Bitcoin and ETH based on that allocation. So again, I think it's a great feature if it works the way they claim it to be, and you get really low spreads and low fees overall. But if you have to deposit funds manually, it's going to take forever. And they also don't have a dollar or an automated way for you to set like a recurring purchase. So that was another negative with Juno. Next, we have Strike. And wow, okay, so Strike is phenomenal. This is the best way to purchase Bitcoin. Like hands down, the best way to purchase Bitcoin. Now, there were a couple flaws or a couple things that I wished Strike did a little bit better. And hopefully, over time, they'll improve on this. But for one, 0 trading fees, so phenomenal. Withdraw fees, I tested this twice with some very small transaction amounts, and they were free for me. Like I was able to withdraw my Bitcoin for free. And it got there to my wallet fairly quickly too. So it was not like it was a super delayed transaction. It was a quick transaction, so that was great. They had a spread of 0.12%. So this is very small compared to most other exchanges, which again is good. 0 fees for deposits. One downside is that they don't have a instant deposit, but it was fairly quick. So when I tested it, it took about 15 minutes for my ACH deposit to actually hit the account, and then I was able to trade. Otherwise, you're not able to purchase or do any trading on Strike. So you have to wait for that deposit to settle within the account. And then after that, you can set a dollar cost averaging strategy, so you can do a recurrent buy purchase, but you got to make sure you have funds within your Strike account. So if you don't have funds, you're not able to dollar cost average. So that's one of the downsides. I wish, and this is one of the things where I really think they could improve, if they just said where they were able to pull the money directly from your bank account and then purchase the Bitcoin with that money. So that would make Strike kind of like the next level. So currently I still think it's one of the best ways to purchase Bitcoin. But if they were able to just directly take the money from your bank account and purchase the BTC on a recurring basis, that would make it so much better. It's not available in Hawaii and New York, but overall, I think Strike is amazing. And if you only care about Bitcoin, I think this is the way to go, because you can use Strike also to make payments, because it's built on the Lightning Network. So you can easily transact with Bitcoin. So this is phenomenal. All right, now moving on to number 3 on my list, and that is FTX US. Now, I bet some of you are probably surprised thinking that FTX would have probably been higher on my list. And, personally, I thought FTX was also going to be like number 1, but it came out at number 3. Now, FTX has some of the lowest fees when it comes to transacting cryptocurrencies. But these are for, I'd say, manual transactions. So whenever you select a limit order or market order, when I'm looking at the fees, or with the primary thing that I'm basing my reviews on, is that instant fee, or that spread. Whenever you just want to set a recurring buy order, how much are you actually paying? And unfortunately, FTX had a much higher spread than I was hoping for. So the fees are extremely small, but again, they're getting you on that spread. And Bitcoin had only about 0.5% spread, but some of the altcoins that I was testing, like ETH, it got close to 1%. I also tested Solana, which it got to 1.5, 1.25. And I didn't test every single one, but I would say like the large market cap ones were at 1% or slightly above 1%. So the spread is what surprised me a little bit. I think it was higher than what I was anticipating. And then the withdrawal fees were very reasonable. I think they were pretty cheap. Bitcoin had free withdrawals, which was phenomenal. And everything else I think is pretty good. They do charge a tiny amount for ACH deposits, but it's essentially 0.5 cent, so it's not a big deal. They do have a debit card, but hopefully most people are not using a debit card. You're just linking your bank account and then depositing funds from there, or you're sending a wire deposit. But most institutions charge you to do a wire, so you'd be paying fees on the wire transaction themselves. But that tiny fee is not terrible. They do have instant funds for trading, and you can set up your DCA strategy with the FTX. Now, I could not figure out how to do it through the website. I had to download the mobile app, and it had to be the FTX mobile app. So they have two. They have the FTX mobile app, and they have an FTX Pro app. The Pro app could not figure it out how to do it either. So I'm not sure if you can or not. I had to do it only through the FTX mobile app. And it's like super hidden in there. Like, it was not easy to figure out how to do it. But messing around with the app a little bit, I was able to finally figure out how to do it. You set it up so it withdraws from your bank account directly, and then you purchase the whatever coin you're setting up to purchase for. So overall, I think FTX is good. It has low fees. It's just that spread, it was higher than I was expecting. There's not a ton of coins that you available to trade. And I'm also a tiny bit wary on FTX. Like, they have spent a ton of money in 2021 when it comes to advertising. They've also been purchasing or spending a lot of money to fund other companies that are going like bankrupt within the last few months. So they did the Voyager loan, so it's not a purchase. They're also trying to, recently they just came out that they're trying to essentially give liquidity to Voyager customers. So if they want to essentially, get out of the whole bankruptcy quicker, they'll give them a certain percentage of that money right away. So FTX has been spending a ton of money, and I'm not sure where the revenue is coming from because their fees are pretty low. So how are they making money? Like, where's this money coming from? I have no idea. So I am slightly wary about FTX, but overall, from what I'm seeing, it looks good. FTX is essentially founded and owned by SBF. He also owns Alameda Research. So it's two big companies within the crypto space. He is a billionaire, so he likely has the funds to keep FTX well backed. But I would still, be a little cautious, especially because they do have kind of like an earn program, which they don't tell you exactly where the money is coming from, but some of the percentages or yield that they're giving is pretty high. So I wouldn't keep my coins within FTX for long. Great place to just go purchase, but then I would withdraw it. And that's why the withdrawal fees are very important. Number 2, we have Binance US. And wow, was I surprised about this one. I was not expecting to have Binance US in here. Now, I was a big fan of Binance when it came out in 2017. I used it back then, and then unfortunately they banned US customers, and I believe it was like 2019. And they came out with Binance US soon after, and it was horrible. So ever since then, I've never used Binance again. But when I was doing the study for this one, looking at the different details, Binance US actually surprised me quite a bit. And they have low trading fees. They have 0% on Bitcoin. So they recently came up with this one. Withdrawal fees are super small. I mean, withdrawal fees are average. So you're not going to be paying a whole lot more than other places to withdraw your coins. Unfortunately, the spreads, so I guess this is the one downside about Binance US, is that they're not available in Texas, New York, Hawaii, or Vermont. Vermont was a surprise in there. I think this is one of the few places you cannot access if you're a resident of Vermont. But I live in Texas, and unfortunately, I don't have access to Binance. So even though everything I looked great, I wasn't able to personally go in there and test it myself. So this is coming from the website. Is coming from for the spread. I did read a lot of like Reddit threads, just online comments, trying to see what the spreads are. And I didn't want to put them in there because I can't validate them myself. But they seem to be fairly small, at least within reason. Binance is also the largest cryptocurrency exchange worldwide. So they're well backed. They're getting hit harshly by regulation. They've been working very hard across the world to be properly regulated, and they've been trying their best to stay within the law. There is a few investigations or allegations going on about money laundering. Nothing has really come up of it, but I guess just something to be aware of. And I think Binance US is its own entity, but ultimately is backed by the global company. They also have a very large amount of tokens available for trade. So I think when it comes to US exchanges, I believe this was the largest, or has the largest amount of tokens available for trade. So that was also good. They also had the DCA, so you can set up your recurrent purchase. So overall, I really like Binance. It's just such a shame that it's not available for Texans, so I was not able to test it directly myself. Hopefully that changes in the future, and I'm able to go in there, create an account, and then see for myself if it's really worth being number 2, or if it, maybe they do have like larger spreads than expected, and I need to knock it down to 3rd or 4th place. And here comes the number 1, which surprised me a ton. Okay, I was really not expecting this one. But number one is Robinhood. And wow, okay, I am not a fan of Robinhood. Ever since the whole GME fiasco that happened, I have not been a fan of Robinhood. But man, do they have the best way to DCA into Bitcoin and Ethereum. Zero trading fees, average withdrawal fees, and I tested this. Okay, so I would not consider an exchange that you cannot withdraw your coins from. Also keep in mind that the Robinhood does have 13 coins. Some of them are not able, you cannot withdraw. So check carefully which coins they have and whether or not you can withdraw them. And then, for Bitcoin and Ethereum, you're able to withdraw them. I tested it myself. I was able to get my money out. It was quick. It took about 2 weeks to create your wallet though. Okay. And again, that was just my experience. The moment I applied to have the cryptocurrency wallet within the Robinhood app, it took about 2 weeks for it to be like fully functional, and I was able to withdraw my coins. But it worked once it was set up. So just make sure you can do it. It has fairly low spreads, so 0.35. And again, if you remember FTX, the lowest was 0.5%, so higher than Robinhood. Strike, again, had the lowest out of all of them. And then if you remember Coinbase, I think it also had like 0.5%. Yeah. Then if we look at some of the other exchanges real quick, I mean, Bittrex has 1.5, 1.5 for Kraken, Gemini 0.5, 1%, 1.5, and then so on and so forth. BlockFi probably has some of the highest ones. They get up to like 2%. So 0.35% is very, very good. So I was blown away. Robinhood gives you the most overall when it comes to cryptocurrencies. Again, I'm sure most of you are familiar with Robinhood. You can easily set up your bank account in there and then just set up your recurring purchase. So it's very easy to do a DCA model with Robinhood. So not a huge fan, but they've come a long way. They made huge strides, especially in the cryptocurrency department. I know they're working on developing their own separate wallet as well. So, I mean, hate them or love them, Robinhood gives you the best rates. And lastly, just so you can see, I created a chart where you can compare them. If I spent $100, how much of that $100 would I actually get? And again, this is using that instant buy model. So it's not doing limit orders and stuff like that. I want an automated way of being able to purchase, or just a simple way to do it. In some of these exchanges, you're not able to do the DCA, but I still use the instant buy when available. And I mean, you can see Robinhood came up number one. So out of $100 in Bitcoin, you get 99.65, 99.63 for ETH. And then Strike, like I said, is the best for Bitcoin. So just if you only care about Bitcoin, Strike gives you the best rates. And again, the downside is you kind of have to wait for your deposit. So it's not as nice or easy as Robinhood. So Strike still has a few quirks when it comes to development. The one that surprised me, as I mentioned before, Juno, it had no spreads or fees on ETH. Like, I don't know if that was just the day that I tested it, and I tested it multiple times, but it always gave me 100%. And it was amazing. So I love it. And then you can see some of these, like Gemini, it really takes a load of your money over here, like almost $350 out of it. Coinbase also taking a good chunk, and then PayPal, Venmo, and so on and so forth. So hate it or love it, Robinhood seems to be the best way currently to set up or to perform your DCA. And that's what I'm using for Bitcoin and ETH. I set it up and I forget about it. And my plan is every few months, I'm just going to go in there, withdraw my coins into my hardware wallet, and call it a day. So hopefully you guys appreciate this. It took me surprisingly a ton of time to do the research. And, hopefully it's just a little bit helpful. I'm going to make the link for all the comparisons available in the description. If you want to access it, go ahead. Otherwise, hit the like, subscribe, really helps out. Bye.